President Hana Kim adjusted her ceremonial Earth uniform one last time before stepping onto the grand stage of the Galactic Council chambers. The massive hall stretched before her like a cathedral of stars, its crystalline walls reaching toward a dome that showed the swirling nebulae of distant galaxies. Representatives from over 1,000 worlds filled the amphitheater-style seating, their varied forms creating a tapestry of alien life that would have amazed any human child. The Zephyrian delegates floated in their bioluminescent pods, their tentacles weaving patterns of communication through the water-filled chambers. Crystalline beings from the Andorian sector sat motionless, their diamond-hard bodies reflecting the chamber's soft lighting into rainbow patterns across the walls. The insectoid Mantari clicked their mandibles in what passed for polite conversation, while the gas-based ethereals shimmered like living aurora in their containment fields. Hana took a deep breath, knowing that her words today could change the course of human history. For 3 centuries, humanity had been treated as the galaxy's newest and least important members. Earth's technology was considered primitive, their military laughably weak, their culture barely worth studying. Most species saw humans as useful, laborers at best, amusing pets at worst. Honored delegates of the Galactic Council, Hana began, her voice amplified by quantum resonators that carried her words to every corner of the vast chamber. I stand before you not as a representative of a lesser species, but as the voice of 12 billion souls who dream of walking among the stars as equals. A ripple of what could only be described as condescending amusement passed through the alien assembly. The 4-armed Vorthak delegation leaned back in their seats, their reptilian faces showing barely concealed disdain. General Vextar, their military commander, made a gesture that roughly translated to dismissive laughter in human terms. But Hana continued, her voice growing stronger. For too long, humanity has accepted the role you assigned us. We've mined asteroids while you claimed the habitable worlds. We've served as mechanics for your starships while you explored new dimensions. We've been grateful for the scraps of knowledge you've shared, never daring to ask for more. The chamber grew quieter now. Even the constantly chattering Blix representatives had stopped their harmonic humming. Hana could feel the weight of 1,000 different gazes upon her, some curious, others hostile. But today, I propose a different future. A galaxy where cooperation replaces exploitation, where the innovations of Earth's engineers work alongside Altarian wisdom and Centaurian artistry, where human courage combines with ethereal knowledge and crystalline patience to solve problems none of us could face alone. Behind Hana, holographic displays showed images of human achievements the galaxy had never seen. Cities that floated on impossible architectures, ships that bent space-time in ways that made the aliens' fastest vessels look stationary, weapons that could crack moons hidden away in Earth's deepest vaults. The Altarian delegate, Ambassador Quintel, leaned forward with genuine interest. His species had always been more open to human potential than most. President Kim, these technological displays are impressive, but surely you understand the natural order of galactic civilization. Newer species must prove themselves worthy of advancement. Hana smiled, but there was steel behind her expression. Ambassador, humanity has already proven itself. We've simply chosen not to demonstrate our capabilities in ways that would threaten the peace we all cherish. But make no mistake, we are not the primitive species you believe us to be. The revelation sent shockwaves through the assembly. The crystalline Andorians began resonating at frequencies that created musical harmony throughout the chamber. The ethereal's forms brightened and swirled with agitation. Even the usually stoic Mantari began clicking their mandibles in rapid discussion. General Vexitar of the Vorthak stood abruptly, his massive form casting shadows across the nearest delegates. How you dare threaten the established order with these fabrications? Humans are barely capable of interstellar travel without our guidance. General Vextar, Hana replied calmly, I threaten no one. I simply ask for what every species in this chamber already possesses, the right to be treated with dignity and respect. the right to contribute to galactic civilization as partners, not servants. She spread her arms wide, encompassing the entire assembly. We offer our hand in friendship, our scientists, our artists, our warriors, our dreamers, all working together, with yours to build something greater than any one species could achieve alone. Imagine what we could accomplish if we truly stood united. The chamber erupted in discussion. Some delegates seemed genuinely moved by her words. Others appeared calculating, perhaps reassessing their assumptions about human capabilities. But in the Vorthak section, General Vextar was whispering urgently to his aide, a scarred warrior named Commander Zekus. As Hana stepped down from the podium, she felt a moment of hope. Perhaps this was the beginning of a new era. Perhaps humanity would finally take its rightful place among the stars. The plasma bolt came without warning. Commander Zekus had positioned himself perfectly, using the confusion of the crowd to mask his movement. The weapon was a small thing, easily concealed, but its energy discharge could burn through starship armor. Against unprotected human flesh, it was devastatingly effective. Hana Kim crumpled to the polished floor of the chamber, her life bleeding away in front of representatives from across the galaxy. Some delegates cried out in genuine horror, others sat in stunned silence, and a few, particularly among the Vorthak delegation, seemed satisfied with the outcome. What none of them realized as they watched Earth's greatest diplomat die was that they had just signed their own death warrant. The news of President Hana Kim's assassination reached Earth within hours, carried by quantum relay networks that spanned the galaxy. In the great cities of humanity's homeworld, the reaction was immediate and terrifying in its completeness. New Tokyo's massive spaceport, usually buzzing with thousands of cargo haulers and passenger vessels, became a ghost town within minutes. Ships that had been preparing for departure simply shut down their engines and sealed their airlocks. The orbital elevators that connected Earth's surface to the ring of space stations above ground to a halt, their massive cables swaying gently. In the upper atmosphere, like the strings of a cosmic harp. Above the planet, the sight was even more dramatic. The bustling trade stations that had served as humanity's interface with galactic commerce went dark one by one. These massive structures, some the size of small cities, simply powered down their beacon lights and closed their docking bays. Alien merchant vessels found themselves locked out, their automated docking requests met with silence. The orbital defense platforms that protected Earth's space approached, presented perhaps the most unsettling sight of all. These weapon arrays, which the galaxy had always dismissed as primitive human technology, slowly rotated to face outward into the void. But instead of powering up in preparation for battle, they simply went dark. Their massive railgun batteries, plasma cannons and missile pods all fell silent, as if Earth itself had died along with its president. In the depths of space, human vessels that had been scattered across dozens of star systems began their journey home. The merchant ships abandoned their cargo runs. The exploration vessels left their survey missions half-finished. Even the deep space research stations, some of which had been studying phenomena at the edge of known space for decades, packed up their equipment and began the long journey back to Sol System. Captain Jin Quan commanded one of these returning vessels, a sleek exploration ship called the Horizon's Edge. As his crew prepared for the final jump to Earth's solar system, his communications officer looked up from her console with confusion. "Captain, I'm not receiving any responses from Earth traffic control. The entire system seems to have gone quiet." Jin nodded grimly. "That's intentional, Lieutenant. Earth is mourning, and when humanity mourns, we do it in our own way." The alien species watching this mass withdrawal interpreted it exactly as they had hoped. In the crystal spires of the Altarian capital, Ambassador Quintel reviewed reports from his intelligence networks with satisfaction. "The humans are broken," he told his aide. "Losing their leader has paralyzed them completely. They've retreated to their little corner of the galaxy like wounded animals." On the Vorthak homeworld, General Vextar was even more pleased. The massive reptilian commander stood in his war room, surrounded by holographic displays showing human ship movements throughout the galaxy. "Perfect," he growled to his assembled officers. The assassination has had exactly the effect we wanted. Humanity is no longer a threat to the natural order of galactic civilization. What none of these alien observers realized was that something far more dangerous than grief was taking hold in Earth's military command centers. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, in a facility that no alien spy had ever suspected existed, Admiral Park was orchestrating the most complex military operation in human history. The command center was a marvel of human engineering, a vast underground complex that stretched for miles beneath the Earth's surface. Holographic displays showed the position of every human vessel in the galaxy, updating in real time as ships completed their journeys home. But more importantly, other displays showed projects that had been hidden from galactic view for centuries. "Sir," Lieutenant Minho Choi reported, his voice echoing in the massive chamber, "the last of our deep space reconnaissance fleets has just entered Sol system. All human assets are now within our defensive perimeter." Admiral Park stood before the central display, his weathered face illuminated by the soft glow of tactical readouts. At 62, he had spent his entire career preparing for this moment, though he had never hoped it would come. "Excellent. What's the status of our withdrawal?" "From galactic shipping networks." "Complete, sir. We've terminated all contracts with alien corporations. Every human merchant vessel has been recalled. The galaxy's supply chains are already beginning to feel the disruption." This was the first hint of humanity's true importance to galactic civilization. For centuries, human workers had been the backbone of interstellar commerce, their ships carrying goods between species that wouldn't deal directly with each other. Human engineers maintained the complex machinery that kept alien worlds running. Human miners extracted the rare elements that powered galactic technology. Without them, the galaxy's economy would collapse within months. But Admiral Park had far more ambitious plans than an economic blockade. "And the Phantom Project?" he asked, turning to face his aide. Lieutenant Choi's expression grew excited despite the somber circumstances. "Completed ahead of schedule, sir. Dr. Yoon Lee's team has successfully integrated the quantum processors into our entire fleet. Every human vessel, from the smallest courier ship to our largest battle cruisers, now has capabilities that exceed anything the galaxy has ever seen." The Phantom Project had been humanity's greatest secret, a technological development that had taken place in hidden research facilities scattered throughout the Sol system. While the galaxy had dismissed human science as primitive, Earth's greatest minds had been working on breakthroughs that would revolutionize warfare itself. Dr. Yoon Lee herself appeared on the command center's main screen, her image transmitted from the research station orbiting Jupiter. The brilliant scientist looked exhausted but triumphant. "Admiral, the quantum integration is complete. Our ships can now phase between dimensions, becoming completely undetectable to conventional sensors. We've also successfully weaponized temporal distortion fields and developed artificial gravity wells that can trap entire fleets." Admiral Park nodded grimly. "And our production facilities?" "The automated shipyards in the asteroid belt have been running at full capacity for 6 months. We now have a fleet that outnumbers every other species in the galaxy combined. More importantly, each of our vessels is technologically superior to anything they possess." As reports continued to flow in, Admiral Park felt the weight of what was about to happen. Humanity had always been a peaceful species, preferring diplomacy to warfare. President Kim had embodied that philosophy perfectly, believing that understanding and cooperation could overcome any conflict. But the galaxy had rejected that olive branch in the most brutal way possible. Admiral Park walked to the central communication array, a device so powerful it could broadcast to every inhabited world in the galaxy simultaneously. He activated the system, knowing that this would be the last message Earth sent before the storm began. His words were simple, but they carried the weight of 12 billion souls behind them. "You killed the only human who believed in peace with you." The transmission ended, and Admiral Park turned back to his officers. In the silence that followed, he began issuing the orders that would reshape galactic civilization forever. Activate all stealth protocols. Begin Phase 1 of Operation Reckoning. And may whatever gods the galaxy believes in have mercy on them, because we won't. Earth's silence resumed, but now it was the silence of a predator preparing to strike. The Vorthak home system had been considered the most heavily defended fortress in the galaxy for over 2,000 years. Massive orbital defense platforms, each the size of a small moon, formed 3 concentric shells around the reptilian species' homeworld. These ancient weapons had never failed to destroy any approaching threat, their plasma cannons capable of vaporizing entire fleets before they could get within 1,000,000 kilometers of the planet. Admiral Krex stood in the central command chamber of the outermost defense ring, a colossal structure called the Iron Fang. The massive Vorthak commander was reviewing routine patrol reports when his tactical officer, a younger reptilian named Sub-Commander Zelek, suddenly straightened at his console. "Admiral, I'm detecting some unusual sensor readings from the outer perimeter," Zelek reported, his forked tongue flicking nervously as he studied the displays. Krex barely looked up from his reports. The Vorthak had grown complacent over the centuries, confident that no species in the galaxy possessed the technology to threaten their defenses. Probably just another merchant convoy asking for passage rights. Send them the standard warning about maintaining proper distance. But Zelek's voice grew more urgent. "Sir, the readings are strange. It's almost like our sensors are detecting something that isn't quite there. The quantum signatures keep shifting between dimensions." Before Admiral Krex could respond, his communications officer began receiving frantic transmissions from the outer defense stations. "Admiral, Station Gamma 7 reports that Station Gamma 6 has just disappeared. No explosion, no debris field, just gone." Krex's massive head snapped up, his yellow eyes widening in disbelief. "Impossible. Those stations are equipped with shields that could withstand a supernova blast. What do you mean disappeared?" The answer came as reports flooded in from across the defensive grid. Station after station simply winked out of existence, their quantum signatures vanishing from sensors as if they had never been there at all. The massive weapons platforms that had protected the Vorthak homeworld for millennia were being erased from reality itself. "Sir," Zelek called out, his voice now shaking with fear, "the middle defense ring is gone too. All 17 stations just ceased to exist, and now I'm detecting massive gravitational anomalies throughout the system." Admiral Krex stared at his tactical display in horror as the impossible happened before his eyes. The outermost ring of defenses, which included his own command station, was the only thing left standing. Everything else had been wiped clean, leaving empty space where the galaxy's most powerful weapons had stood moments before. "How is this possible?" he whispered, his reptilian features pale with shock. His answer came in the most terrifying way imaginable. Space itself began to shimmer around the Iron Fang, and suddenly the Vorthak found themselves surrounded by ships that should not have been able to exist. The human vessels that materialized around them were nothing like the clunky cargo haulers and primitive exploration ships the galaxy knew. These were sleek predators, their hulls seeming to shift and flow like liquid metal. Energy fields danced across their surfaces in patterns that hurt to look at directly, as if the ships existed partially in normal space and partially in dimensions. The Vorthak couldn't even perceive. "Admiral," Zelek gasped, "I count over 300 human vessels, but our sensors can only track about 50 of them at any given moment. The others keep phasing in and out of detectable space." The human ships moved with a coordination that seemed impossible. They flowed around the remaining Vorthak defenses like a school of fish, never colliding, never hesitating, as if they were controlled by a single unified intelligence. Some of the vessels appeared to be flying backwards through time, arriving at positions before they had left their previous locations. Admiral Krex activated his battle stations, but even as alarms began wailing throughout the Iron Fang, he knew that his weapons were useless. The human ships were phasing between dimensions, existing in spaces his weapons couldn't reach. It was like trying to shoot at ghosts. The communication arrays crackled to life, and Admiral Park's voice filled the command chamber. The human admiral sounded calm, almost sad as he spoke. "Admiral Krex, I am Admiral Tay Park of the Earth Defense Force. Your species chose to murder our president during a peace conference. This is the consequence of that choice." Krex found his voice, though it came out as more of a snarl than he intended. Human, you have made a grave mistake coming here. The Vorthak have ruled this system for— Your defenses are gone, Admiral Park interrupted quietly. Your orbital platforms, your weapon satellites, your automated defense drones, all of them have been removed from this dimension. They exist now in a pocket of folded space-time where they can harm no one. The Vorthak Admiral looked at his tactical displays and realized with growing horror that the human was telling the truth. His sensors showed empty space where the galaxy's most powerful weapons had been positioned. Not destroyed, simply gone, as if they had been carefully picked up and placed somewhere else entirely. Surrender now, Admiral Park continued, and your civilian population will be spared. Continue to resist, and we will demonstrate why humanity was kept as junior partners in galactic civilization. It was never because we were weak. Admiral Krex's military pride overwhelmed his common sense. The massive reptilian commander straightened to his full 3-meter height and activated his ship's communication systems to broadcast to the entire system. You pathetic humans think you can intimidate the Vorthak Empire? We have conquered 12 star systems. We have weapons that can crack planets. His response was a harsh laugh that echoed through the command chamber. Watch us burn your primitive ships to— The Iron Fang shuddered once, a brief vibration that barely registered on the ship's sensors. Then Admiral Krex watched in absolute terror as his flagship began to split down the middle, not torn apart by weapons fire or explosions, but divided as cleanly as if cut by an impossibly sharp blade. The massive command station, which had withstood attacks from the galaxy's most powerful weapons, was being sliced in half by forces that his sensors couldn't even detect. Emergency bulkheads slammed shut as atmosphere began venting into space, but the cut was so precise that many sections remained pressurized even as the station fell apart. Temporal shear weapons, Admiral Park's voice explained calmly as Krex scrambled for his escape pod. We've learned to cut through the fabric of space-time itself. Your shields, your armor, your hull, none of it matters when we can simply separate the atoms that hold your ship together. Throughout the system, other Vorthak vessels were suffering similar fates. The proud war fleet that had terrorized dozens of species found their ships disabled by weapons they couldn't understand, let alone defend against. Some vessels simply stopped working as their computer systems were infected by quantum viruses that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Others found their crews trapped in temporal loops, experiencing the same few seconds over and over again. But the most terrifying sight was the human ships themselves. They moved through the Vorthak fleet like deadly dancers, never seeming to fire weapons but somehow disabling every enemy vessel they approached. It was as if they were conducting surgery on reality itself, carefully removing threats without causing unnecessary destruction. Within 2 hours, the entire Vorthak defense fleet was floating dead in space. Within 4 hours, the planetary shields protecting the homeworld had been shut down from the inside, their control systems somehow convinced that they were malfunctioning. Within 6 hours, Admiral Krex found himself kneeling in the ruins of his command center, officially surrendering his entire species to an enemy they had never taken seriously. As human marines in advanced power armor secured the Vorthak government, Building's Admiral Park's final message to the defeated species was simple but chilling. You wanted to see what humanity was truly capable of. Consider this a gentle introduction. The galaxy's most feared military power had fallen in less than a day, without the humans firing a single conventional weapon. The news of Vorthak's instant defeat sent shockwaves through the Galactic Council, chambers on Nexus Prime. Ambassador Quintel of the Altarians paced nervously in front of the emergency assembly, his usually calm demeanor shattered by the reports flooding in from across the galaxy. The humans destroyed our most powerful military force in 6 hours, he announced to the gathered delegates. 6 hours. The Vorthak Empire that took us centuries to contain was eliminated like it was nothing more than a training exercise. The crystalline Andorian representative resonated with frequencies that translated as pure terror. Our analysis indicates the humans possess technology beyond our understanding. They manipulated space-time itself. How is this possible from a species we considered primitive? General Thaxmore of the Centaurian Defense Corps, a towering insectoid warrior whose species had never lost a battle, clicked his mandibles in agitation. It doesn't matter how they did it. What matters is stopping them before they reach our worlds. I'm calling for immediate mobilization of all galactic defense forces. Within hours, the largest military fleet in galactic history began assembling. Ships from 200 different species converged on designated rally points throughout the galaxy. The ethereal energy beings contributed their reality-warping dreadnoughts. The machine intelligence of the Nexus Collective sent their self-repairing war platforms. Even the Peaceful Harmony Alliance deployed their defensive fleets, terrified that humanity's rage would consume everything in its path. The combined fleet was a sight that would have amazed any military historian. So over 10,000 warships of every conceivable design filled space around the binary star system of Kepler 442, massive Centaurian hive ships, their organic hulls pulsing with bioluminescent weapon systems, sleek Altarian vessels that seemed to be made of pure light, crystalline Andorian ships that sang in harmonious frequencies as they moved, the robotic cubes and spheres of the Nexus Collective, their surfaces covered in weapons that defied geometric logic. Admiral Zeth Kara of the Centaurians stood in the command center of the flagship Galactic Unity, a massive vessel that served as the mobile headquarters for the Allied forces. The insectoid commander had fought in dozens of campaigns and never experienced defeat. His compound eyes studied the tactical displays, showing human ship movements with growing concern. Intelligence reports indicate the humans have only about 3,000 vessels, he announced to his staff. We outnumber them more than 3 to 1, but after what happened to the Vorthak, I'm not taking any chances. All ships will attack simultaneously from multiple vectors. We'll overwhelm them with pure firepower. The plan seemed sound. The galactic fleet would jump into Sol system from 6 different directions, creating a sphere of destruction around Earth that no enemy could escape. Conventional military wisdom said that even the most advanced technology couldn't overcome such overwhelming numerical superiority. They were about to learn that conventional wisdom meant nothing when facing an enemy that had rewritten the laws of physics. Captain Hyuk Nam stood on the bridge of the human flagship Retribution, a vessel that looked like a work of art more than a weapon of war. Its hull seemed to flow like liquid silver, and energy patterns danced across its surface in hypnotic spirals. Around him, the human fleet prepared for what everyone knew would be the decisive battle of the war. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Ari Shin from the tactical station, "enemy forces are beginning their final approach. I count 10,147 hostile vessels converging on our position from 6 attack vectors. They'll reach engagement range in approximately 18 minutes. Captain Nam looked at the holographic display, showing the massive alien armada approaching Earth. Any conventional military commander would have been terrified by the sight. The enemy fleet was so large, it looked like a moving constellation, their combined firepower capable of reducing planets to asteroids. "Admiral Park to all vessels," came the calm voice of the human commander over the fleet communications network. "Remember, we're not just fighting for revenge. We're fighting to ensure that no species ever again mistakes human compassion for weakness. Today, the galaxy learns why we were kept as junior partners for so long." The alien fleet dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, creating a sphere of destruction around the Sol system. Their weapons powered up simultaneously, creating energy readings that could be detected from neighboring star systems. It was the most overwhelming display of military might in galactic history. "Sir," Lieutenant Shin reported, his voice tight with tension, "enemy forces outnumber us 1,000 to 1. They have us completely surrounded. Their combined firepower could destroy our entire fleet in minutes." Captain Nam smiled grimly and activated his ship's communication system. "All human vessels, prepare for dimensional phase activation on Admiral Park's mark." "This is Admiral Park to all ships," came the response moments later. "The enemy believes numbers give them victory. Let's show them why humans stopped counting long ago. Activate dimensional phase drives. What happened next would be studied by military historians for centuries to come, assuming any survived to write the histories. The human fleet simply vanished from normal space-time. Not destroyed, not retreating, but stepping sideways into dimensions that the alien sensors couldn't track. For a moment, the Galactic Armada found themselves firing at empty space. Their massive weapons creating light shows that illuminated the void where their targets had been. Then the humans reappeared, but not where anyone expected. Instead of maintaining their defensive positions around Earth, the human ships materialized inside the alien formation itself. They were no longer surrounded by enemies. They were surrounded by targets. The alien fleet found themselves in chaos as human vessels appeared literally inside their formations. The carefully coordinated attack plan collapsed as ships tried to avoid colliding with suddenly appearing enemies. But collision was the least of their worries. Captain Nam watched as his ship's weapon systems activated automatically, targeting enemy vessels with precision that seemed almost supernatural. "Initiate temporal distortion fields," he ordered. Around them, alien ships began aging at an accelerated rate. Hull plating that had been strong enough to withstand supernovas became brittle and cracked within seconds. Advanced computer systems designed to last millennia suddenly experienced centuries of wear in minutes. Entire vessels crumbled to dust as their molecular bonds were aged beyond their capacity to hold together. Other human ships were deploying even more exotic weapons. Micro-black holes appeared throughout the enemy formation, their gravitational fields carefully controlled to consume only hostile vessels while leaving empty space untouched. Ships that had been there moments before were stretched into spaghetti-like strands, before disappearing beyond event horizons that blinked out of existence as quickly as they had formed. The ethereal dreadnoughts, beings of pure energy, who had thought themselves immune to physical weapons, found their essence being drained away by devices that fed on the fundamental forces that held their consciousness together. The machine intelligence vessels of the Nexus Collective discovered their quantum processors being infected by viruses that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, turning their own advanced AI systems against them. "Admiral," Lieutenant Shin reported, his voice filled with awe at the destruction surrounding them. "Enemy fleet strength is down by 60% and falling rapidly. They're trying to retreat, but our dimensional anchors are preventing them from entering hyperspace." Throughout the battle zone, desperate alien commanders broadcast surrender offers on every frequency they could access. The proud warriors who had expected an easy victory were now begging for mercy from an enemy they had dismissed as primitive. But Admiral Park's response was always the same, broadcast on open channels so that every surviving alien could hear, "You should have considered mercy when you murdered President Kim." The battle that was supposed to last hours was over in minutes. The largest military fleet in galactic history had been reduced to scattered debris and fleeing survivors in less time than it took most species to achieve weapons lock. But humanity's demonstration of power didn't end with the destruction of the galactic fleet. As news of the battle spread throughout known space, star systems that had voted for humanity's exclusion from the Council discovered that their suns themselves were under attack. The Rigel Collective, a group of 12 worlds that had openly celebrated President Kim's assassination, watched in terror as their star began to flicker. Human engineering teams had somehow gained access to the stellar core itself, manipulating the fusion processes that kept their sun burning. The star's output became erratic, plunging entire worlds into alternating periods of freezing cold and burning heat. Similar demonstrations occurred throughout the galaxy. Stars dimmed or flared at humanity's will. Planets found their gravity fluctuating as human technology manipulated the fundamental forces that held worlds together. The message was clear. Humanity could now control the very building blocks of reality itself. The galaxy that had once dismissed humans as a minor nuisance now faced the terrifying reality that they had awakened something far beyond their ability to control or contain. The once magnificent Galactic Council chambers on Nexus Prime lay in ruins. The crystalline walls that had once shown beautiful views of distant nebulae were now cracked and darkened. The elegant floating platforms where delegates had debated galactic policy for thousands of years were twisted wreckage scattered across the floor. Emergency lighting cast eerie shadows through the broken dome overhead, where stars could be seen through the gaps in what had been an engineering marvel. In the center of this devastation, the surviving representatives of galactic civilization knelt on the cold stone floor. These beings, who had once commanded the respect of 1 trillion souls across the galaxy, now trembled like frightened children. Their proud uniforms were torn and stained, their ceremonial weapons long since surrendered to human forces. Ambassador Quintel of the Altarians, his usually luminous skin now pale and flickering weakly, kept his eyes fixed on the floor. Beside him, General Thaxmore of the Centaurians had lost 3 of his 6 arms in the final battle for Nexus Prime, his once mighty exoskeleton cracked and leaking yellow fluid. The crystalline Andorian delegate no longer sang in harmonious frequencies. Instead, she emitted only discordant notes of fear and defeat. Admiral Tay Park walked slowly through the wreckage, his boots echoing in the vast chamber. The human commander looked older than when this war had begun. The weight of 12 billion souls and the responsibility of reshaping galactic civilization having aged him in ways that went beyond mere years. Behind him, Dr. Mi-Yun carried herself, with the quiet dignity of someone who had helped design humanity's new future. "Look around you," Admiral Park said quietly, his voice carrying easily through the damaged acoustics of the chamber. "This is what you built, a civilization based on the belief that might makes right, that the strong should rule the weak, that peace was nothing more than the brief pause between wars." He stopped in front of the kneeling delegates, and several of them flinched as his shadow fell across them. "You taught us that weakness invites aggression. You showed us that diplomacy without power is just noise. You demonstrated that peace is only possible when one side is too strong to challenge." The ethereal representative, her energy form barely Alfie, maintaining cohesion, whispered in frequencies that translated as pure despair. "We never meant for this to happen. The assassination was the work of extremists." Admiral Park's expression didn't change. "Ambassador Veltar, your species voted 17-3 in favor of excluding humanity from council decisions. Your own words, recorded just last year, were that humans should be grateful for whatever scraps of territory we were allowed to keep. The extremists you speak of were simply acting on beliefs your entire civilization shared." Dr. Mi-Yun stepped forward, her appearance professional despite the apocalyptic setting. The new Secretary of Galactic Affairs had spent the past weeks preparing for this moment, crafting the documents that would reshape how 1 trillion beings lived their lives. The question now is not what happened, but what comes next. "Ambassador," Quintel, one of the few who had consistently opposed the more aggressive anti-human policies, raised his head tremblingly. What do you want from us?" His voice cracked as he spoke, the proud diplomat reduced to begging for his species' survival. Dr. Yun activated a holographic projector, filling the ruined chamber with images of the new galactic order. Star charts showed human fleets positioned at every major hyperspace junction, trade route and strategic system throughout known space. But these weren't the primitive human vessels the aliens remembered. These were ships that seemed to bend reality around them, their hulls shimmering with energies that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. "Humanity will assume leadership of this galaxy," Dr. Yun announced with calm authority. "This is not negotiable. This is not temporary. This is the new reality you will learn to live with." The holographic displays shifted to show detailed reconstruction plans. Worlds that had been devastated by the war would be rebuilt, but according to human designs and human priorities. Trade networks would be reorganized to benefit species that had shown friendship to humanity, while former enemies would find themselves relegated to secondary status in the new economic order. "Worlds that cooperate will enjoy autonomy and protection," Dr. Yun continued. "Your species will be allowed to govern themselves according to their own customs and traditions, as long as those traditions don't conflict with the fundamental principles of the human hegemony. You will have representation in the new galactic government, though humans will maintain final authority on all major decisions." She paused, letting the implications sink in before delivering the alternative. "Those that resist will face the same fate as the Vorthak." The Centaurian delegate, General Thaxmore, struggled to his feet despite his injuries. His species had never bowed to anyone in their 1,000-year history. "But we outnumber you billions to one," he whispered, his mandibles clicking weakly. How can 12 billion humans control a galaxy of trillions? Admiral Park smiled, but there was no warmth in the expression. Numbers mean nothing when you're fighting in the wrong dimension, General. We've been holding back for centuries, developing technology while you grew complacent in your superiority. We let you believe we were weak because it suited our purposes. He gestured to the holographic displays which now showed the true extent of human capabilities. Ships that could exist in multiple timelines simultaneously. Weapons that could age. Matter at the molecular level. Engineering projects that manipulated the fundamental forces holding the universe together. Technologies that the greatest alien scientists couldn't even comprehend, let alone replicate. President Kim believed in diplomacy, Admiral Park continued, his voice growing harder. She believed in treating you as equals, despite your obvious limitations. She thought that if we showed you our peaceful intentions, you would respond with friendship and cooperation. The displays shifted again, showing recordings of President Kim's speeches, her attempts to build bridges between species, her vision of a galaxy where all civilizations could work together. Then they showed her assassination, playing the moment, over and over, as the assembled delegates were forced to watch their greatest mistake. "We will not make that mistake again," Admiral Park declared. "The human hegemony begins today." Dr. Yoon placed a thick document on the broken council table, its pages glowing with quantum encryption that made it impossible to forge or alter. This is the new Galactic Charter. It outlines the rights and responsibilities of all species under human authority. It guarantees protection for those who abide by its terms and promises swift justice for those who violate them. She looked directly at each of the kneeling delegates in turn. "Sign it, and your species survives. Your worlds will be rebuilt. Your people will have a future under human protection. Refuse and join the Vorthak in extinction." The silence that followed was deafening. These beings who had once commanded vast fleets and ruled over star systems now faced the most important decision in their species' history. One by one, they approached the table with trembling limbs and shaking appendages. Ambassador Quintel was the first to sign, his luminous fingers leaving traces of light on the quantum paper. "The Altarian Republic accepts the terms of the human hegemony," he whispered. General Thaxmore dragged himself to the table next, using his remaining arms to inscribe his species' complex signature pattern. "The Centaurian Defense Corps surrenders." Crystalline Andorian delegate sang a mournful tune as she etched her agreement into the document with harmonic frequencies. The ethereal representative merged briefly with the charter, her energy signature becoming part of its quantum matrix. One after another, the surviving leaders of galactic civilizations signed away their independence. As the last signature was recorded, Admiral Park activated the chamber's communication systems. His final message would be broadcast to every inhabited world in the galaxy, carried by quantum relays to 1 trillion waiting souls. "Citizens of the galaxy," he began, his voice echoing across the stars. "Today marks the end of one era and the beginning of another. For too long, this galaxy has been plagued by war, conflict, and the belief that might makes right. No more." The displays showed human ships taking position around major worlds, their presence both protective and threatening. "The human hegemony will bring order to chaos, justice to the oppressed, and peace through strength. Those who embrace this new order will find prosperity beyond their wildest dreams. Those who resist will discover why humanity was kept as junior partners for so long." He paused, looking directly into the camera that would carry his image too. "Every world in known space. You wanted to see humanity's true nature. You believed that killing our greatest advocate for peace would break our spirit and force us back into subservience. Instead, you awakened something that your ancestors had the wisdom to keep sleeping." The holographic displays showed the true extent of human military deployment. Fleets stationed at every strategic point in the galaxy, weapons platforms hidden in asteroid fields and nebulae, engineering teams already at work terraforming. New worlds for human colonization. "Thank you for the lesson," Admiral Park concluded. "We will not forget it." As the transmission ended and the chamber fell silent once more, the surviving alien delegates realized that they had witnessed the birth of a new galactic civilization, one where humanity would never again be dismissed, ignored, or betrayed. The age of human dominance had begun. The end.